Before we begin, we want to share something important. At the time of this recording, Dr. Michael Haynes, now in his senior years, was in recovery from multiple chemotherapy treatments and surgeries due to the long-term fallout from his faithful service during the 9/11 tower attacks. Though his body was weary, the Spirit of God continued to shine through his words with clarity, conviction, and enduring wisdom. Hi, I want to welcome you to something that I believe could absolutely change your life and your calling forever. The Faith-Based Counselor Training Institute, also known as FBCTI. Let me tell you how this all started. Over 30 years ago, my father-in-law, Dr. Michael Haynes, heeded the call of God in his life to bring biblical healing and counsel to a hurting world. Long before faith-based counseling was even a recognized term, he pioneered the movement that would go on to impact tens of thousands of lives globally. Since then, over 26,000 students have been trained and credentialed through FBCTI, men and women just like you from many nations stepping into the gap as crisis chaplains, restorative therapists, and faith-based counselors. Now you might be wondering, how long does it take? The course is just 10 hours. But don't let that fool you. It's loaded with what most people spend entire semesters learning in college classrooms, but without the cost, the time, or the red tape. No fluff, no filler, just powerful, practical, Bible-based training that prepares you to counsel the broken, the grieving, the addicted, the forgotten. And here's the kicker. This course is overflowing with bonuses, resource materials, tools for real-world ministry, freely included. But don't just take my word for it. The testimonies speak louder than I ever could. We've had pastors, ministry leaders, and everyday believers send us stories of how this training has transformed their ministries, their families, and their communities. So here's the moment of decision. If you felt a tug in your heart to be a hope dealer, someone who stands in the gap with biblical truth and godly counsel, this is your time. We have never offered this course at the price it's at right now. In 30 years, this is a first, but we're doing it because we believe the need is urgent. The world is spiraling in confusion, trauma, addiction, and spiritual blindness, and the church must rise. You must rise. I'm speaking from experience. I've been ordained and credentialed through FBCTI. Everything they teach is not only scriptural, it is spirit-led and immediately applicable. And I'll tell you, it's changed my ministry, my relationship, and my personal walk with the Lord. So don't wait, don't overthink it, don't put it off. Click below, enroll today, and let the Lord equip you to be a vessel of healing, hope, and truth in these last days. This is your moment. Say yes to the call.
You had no idea, Michael, when you went into Ground Zero. How many days was it before you were there at Ground Zero? 3 days after the collapse. You were on site, and you were there for a matter of how long?
1 year, almost to the day.
You did not leave.
Didn't leave, no.
That's awesome. Thank you for your service and your time. And I want you to explain a little of that process and that year with us.
When I arrived at Ground Zero, we got information, and then we were just turned loose to go in behind the yellow ribbon and find out if we could find some people and what to do with the police and fire departments and first responders, that if they found anybody, how to help them. And ambulances were lined up everywhere. Things were lined up, and we went behind the yellow curtain and went to where the buildings crashed, and the rubble was 9 stories tall from one building, and then 9 stories tall from another building. Just the rubble steel was all blown to pieces and crashed and crumbled right in front of it. And there was lines of firefighters going up those mounds of rubble to see if they could find anybody still alive. They did not. There was close to 3,000 people on one of those lines. One young man began to be pushed out of the line, a firefighter, because he was crying so hard he couldn't he didn't realize that he wasn't going to find anybody, and he didn't wasn't able to deal with it, even if he had found it. So he stepped out of line at the request of his peers, and they saw me standing there with my badges and everything on, and said, and called me to come over and help this guy. And so he got back in line, or the people that called me got back in line, and I went with this young man who was weeping, who was a firefighter, New York firefighter. We went into all the things that you do when you work with something like this. He never found anybody. No one ever found any whole human being. They only found pieces of meat, like steaks and roasts. And we worked at the morgue. We did a lot of things that I had never done before.
And Michael, I don't mean to cut you off, but you have been a firefighter in your early years as well. So you were very familiar with the protocol and the firemen and what they dealt with, as you've dealt with a lot of that early on in your career before you became a minister, correct?
Precisely, yes. And all through the 60s.
Thank you for watching this powerful conversation. This is just the beginning, and there's so much more wisdom and insight coming in the next part of this interview. If you feel a pull in your heart to help others, to counsel, to serve, don't wait. Your passion has purpose. It's time to take the next step and use your calling to make a difference. Stay tuned.